I think this is going to be a fun one. I'm excited for it. I know you're excited for it. Let's get it on. And oh my goodness, the boys are leaving town. What a way to start this best of 3. In the top right side, we are looking at the main base of our Korean Terran player representing Team GP. It is Ryung.
And quickly down here on the bottom left-hand side of the map, we have our purple Zerg player who's going to be sending out those overlords, but are they headed in the right direction? So far, the answer is no. It is Lambo from Shopify Rebellion. That is a very cute place for the proxy.
Yeah, and he's going hatch first. No, that's not necessary. Oh my god, more SCVs are being sent. All right, this is not your 2 racks into, we're going to take a gas and build a factory at home and hope to, kill some drones and take it from there. Nope. This is all out, baby. Triple barracks, maybe even 4 barracks. Is he really going to build 4? I mean, it's been a long time. So this is about as all in as anyone could ever be in this matchup. Now, Lambo went hatch first before. So hatch before his spawning pool. That doesn't mean that he's dead. But obviously, if he would have gone pool before hatch, he would have lost life a whole lot more. Then it becomes so much easier to deal with this. And those overlords you mentioned, Ravi, well, they are checking for stuff, but they're not going to find it anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, there is one big counter side to all of this for Ryung, which is these barracks are so far away from Lambo. That actually does not only mean that this attack will hit a little bit later, but it also means that there is a potential for Lambo to get little lings around some of the Marines to try and pick off some of the reinforcements. There are some opportunities allowed by the fact that Ryung is doing such a great job of hiding this, but pushing this so far back. But 4 barracks worth of Marines now kicking in.
Yeah, and he's also waiting though, right? So he's not just gonna go as quickly as possible. Lambo is now already going back into droning, because normally if you would get 2 racks or 3 racks or even 4 racks, you kind of see something by now, right? Aren't those bunkers going up at the bottom of your natural, or the top of the natural rather? Instead, that is not happening. So Lambo is at this point already thinking about how many drones does he want to go up to? When are we going up to 3 bases? Probably right about now. He still does not know. Ryung is going to hit with so many Marines. He's going to have so much firepower. Lambo has officially planted down that 3rd hatchery. The first Lings are going for a little scouting adventure. He's probably like, why is there no Reaper? Shouldn't you have a Reaper? Well, there is no Reaper because the man is building 4 Marines at a time. He's still waiting. Overlord speed on the way against Proxy 4X. Are you kidding me?
The standard 3-minute Proxy 4X hits in. Overlord gets sniped off. That's a supply block. Kev, how do you defend this now? How do you defend it from this position?
Basically, you're going to hope that the Spine Crawlers finish up 2 Queens and maybe set up the sickest drones around. But there is so much firepower because the Marine count is so damn high. Ryung comes out here, guns blazing. And I think that Lambo's is ultra that ends up losing another Overlord. So he's going to be supply blocked for days. No cancel on that Spine. Yeah, good luck engaging this. Like, you can fight 3, 4, 5 Marines with drones. You're not going to fight this many Marines. As they get on top of the 2nd Spine. That one gets killed as well. Ryung takes the 1-0 with a classic. Well, a classic with a unique new touch to it, where he just waited and waited and waited. And it could have been a disaster. Imagine a world where the Overlord would have caught a glimpse of it, and Lambo builds a couple of spines. By the time he shows up, all the spines will be done. But Lambo didn't know. And I've seen a lot of things in my life here, Dragon, but I don't think I've ever seen 3 base and Overlord speed against Proxy 4X.
That was incredible. I mean, that was just Ryung having Lambo's numbers so hard. That was almost painful and tough to watch, Kev, because it's like you said, how often do you see a Zerg player getting that far into their standard build order against a Proxy 4 Rax, the most committed of Rax? I mean, I gotta really hand it to Ryung. Going for the Proxy that far out, I was a little skeptical. God damn, it worked really well, though.
I think this was the perfect example that patience truly is a virtue. And he could have ran in there with this first 3 Marines and tried to get bonkers up, but at that point you have the little dance around the ramp, and obviously Lambo is going to fight immediately with the Queen as soon as it's out. He's going to try to pick off the SCVs. And Ryung is like, nope, now we wait. We built 4 barracks, and now we wait. And we don't go with 4 Marines or 5 Marines, no. He went with like 10 plus Marines. And at that point, even if the drone count is really high, and sometimes you're worried about Marines getting surrounded by drones, no amount of drones is going to surround that many Marines, baby. So well done by
Yeah.
Ryung. And that's definitely the kind of game that's going to make Lambo molt a little bit for all the right reasons, right? Where it's like, come on. Who does that? That's what you lose against in the first ladder game of the day, but you don't lose against that normally in TSL 9.
Oh man, that is a really brutal spot because now you're in a best of 3. You're starting off your TSL run in the bracket, and now you're sitting down suddenly 0-1 versus a pretty scary opponent and stuff. Who's going to be starting down here, by the way, in the bottom left-hand side of the map, our yellow Terran player. It is Ryung. Let's go, Team GP.
And in the top right side, we're looking at the main base of our German Zerg, who we know is practicing more than ever before, trying to make his awesome team proud. He's, of course, representing the Shopify Rebellion, the German Zerg, Lambo.
And I totally agree, Kev. I'm sure Lambo's not going to be super thrilled. There's going to be a little bit of like mental damage and stuff there for just, oh man, being able to sneak an easy, cheeky win in over there. At the end of the day, it's almost kind of like the series just starts and Ryung's just up 1-0, right? There hasn't really been a game of StarCraft actually played yet.
Yep. This is actually sick as well, right? And I was already feeling this, I kid you not, where it's like a man of extremes. First game, proxy 4x. Second game, complete opposite, CC first. And I think ideally Ryung would have hoped that Lambo would have gone pool first here. You know, just so, okay, Lambo's maybe a bit paranoid after that first game, wants to make sure he doesn't lose to that again. So you go pool first, you make 4 to 6 links. And that may seem good against CC first, but it's actually not. You really just can't do a whole lot with a couple of slow Zerglings against command center first. By the time that these slow links make it to the other side of the map that CC is done, if you're lucky, you maybe kill 1 Marine, you kill 1 SCV, but that's still not a good place to be in as a Zerg. Now the good news for Lambo is that Lambo didn't just throw all prep overboard, and he's still just playing hatch first into a spawning pool, and we're going to take it from there. But so far, I'm absolutely loving the approach of Ryung, and I think he's got to be smiling, right? No matter how many games of StarCraft 2 you've played in your life, when you get ready for a big series like this one, where obviously the top 12 makes it to an offline event, big prize pool, EPT points on the line, you get that 1-0 lead with a proxy 4x and a unique touch to it, being as patient as he was. And then the second game, you're like, no, I'm going to do the complete opposite, baby. CC first. I'm sure that Ryung is absolutely loving the first 6 or 7 minutes of this series so far.
Yeah, and I really like what you also said about Lambo and kind of where he's going to be and not throwing away the preparation or any kind of expectation of how he wanted to play the rest of the series, because I think that's the right attitude, right? You really just want to take this as everything is just pretend like that first game didn't happen, almost pretend like there was just a weird set of vetoes, and you start on inside and out, because I think that's going to be the best way to just try and take things. Don't fall into Ryung's pacing. Make sure you get into your own groove of things. Sling's going to come in over here. Now he's going to catch wind of the whole CC first situation as he sees the timing for the factory and the reactor and everything. And Lambo, at least like you said, he's going to be happy they didn't open up with a pool first and stuff, but we'll see how he decides to react to all of this now.
This is really important to have a clean mid game now for Lambo. Don't lose any drones you're not supposed to lose. Don't do anything silly with your queens. This could very well just be Hellions into Banshees, and we'll take it from there. That is a build that Lambo has obviously practiced against a million times. And now it's just important to see if Lambo is still calm, cool, and collected, and if his defense is going to be as good as we know it can be. I mean, he plays a lot against Gabe, has a decent amount of series against Clem. The ones against Clem don't go very hot, but against Hero Marine, Lambo's actually been able to find quite some success lately, and I think stylistically, Ryung is probably a bit closer to Hero Marine than he is to Clem.
Yeah, I think that's actually a fair point, and it's funny that you actually even mentioned that, because the winner of this series goes on to face off versus Hero Marine in the bracket. So if Lambo can pick up a little bit of steam in this series, he's going to be in a good spot facing off versus Hero Marine, but still got to overcome the situation. Ryung is just going to be open up with a good old 1-1-1 setup, has Cloak Banshees on the way, got some Hellions, going to try and get a little bit of zone control as he swaps that factory off the reactor, throws down a third CC, and is really just getting into the groove of expansion and minor bits of harassment behind it.
because there was so much action as the first 4 Hellions are also going a little adventurous. A bit sloppy here by Ryung, doesn't get anything done, ends up losing one of the Hellions immediately. I wasn't able to talk about it because we hopped into the game and the boys were sent out. But Ravi, it's already the 4th series of the day. You know, you open it up, you're like, the 3rd one. It's like, no, mate, we're blazing through. We obviously kicked things off with Creator against Rex. After that, we had Taimio, Micah, and then we just had the PvP.
Yeah, man, these games have honestly been flying by. I mean, not only that first game in this series, but I feel like a lot of the first 2 series also had a lot of aggressive plays and stuff. They ended up pretty quickly. Mana versus Hero, I'd say, like the only series so far that's gone to a game 3. So let's see if Lambo can bring this out to a game 3 as well. We already have the Banshee poking forward, snapping off a couple of workers. It's nothing too bad just yet, but Lambo really wants to be able to stay on top of this. Like you said, does not want to lose any extra drones here.
Nope, like losing 3 for max 5 drones against Hellions and close Banshees. It's not ideal, but these things can happen. It just can't snowball out of control. You really can be losing like 8 drones and a queen, because this is a map that's quite decent for Terran, and these pushes with Marines and tanks are going to hit like a truck. So if you take too much damage, you're often just not ready for that first big move out of the Terran player. Queens are in a good spot here. That Banshee is going to get picked off. So Lambo got a Banshee and a Hellion so far. He is ending up losing a few extra drones in the main base to one more Banshee that activates Cloak as well. Yeah, honestly, I think I kind of like this for Ryung so far. Losing a Banshee is painful, but 6 drones. Obviously, he went CC first. Like, that first push is going to hit very hard. It's going to be big, and Lambo is going to need like some sort of a great engagement or hope that Ryung messes up. Because if Ryung is going to have picture perfect control with Marines, tanks, and medevacs, and he pushes through the center, it's going to get very difficult for Lambo to take a great fight against him.
I'm definitely with you there, Kev. Now, one thing I will say that I like about Lambo's spot is that because Ryung has been, like you said, pretty aggressive with his couple of early Hellions, his Banshees went for the drone harassment stuff, there's really been nothing pushing back any of that creep spread. So Lambo has a good amount of creep. He's actually almost at third base over here because inside now, not exactly the biggest map. So nice setup there for Lambo. He's got Queens moving forward to the front lines with a couple of Lings and Baneleys getting ready as well. So I think he does have the ability to buy himself a little bit of time and space against any kind of push out that Ryung is going to be throwing at him. The only kind of funny thing is Ryung is literally hitting around the opposite side of the map from where Lambo was actually situating his army. So
yeah, because I think Ryung is expecting here there to be a base. I think Ryung thought that there would be a base here, but Lambo actually took the top left, and this is something that Ryung never scouted in the first place. So this is a very awkward push where he's like, oh, no one's home. And obviously, things would be too good to be true for Lambo to still be on 3 bases here. So definitely a bit of a miscall there by Ryung. And Lambo is going to be giggling like, lol, why are you sieging up tanks over there, mate? Like, there is nothing. Like, yeah, you're going to clean up a couple of free ones, but that's really all. One thing I'm a bit worried about for Lambo is that his upgrades are very out of sync. He started +1 melee very quickly, but waited a while to fire up Carapace. In the end, he was on top of it after he dropped the Hydra then. But I think it's so difficult to always stay on top of your upgrades if they don't finish up at the same time, right?
Yeah, definitely harder to keep a mental track of just the 2 different timings as opposed to just the one alongside everything else that you have going on. Now, Ryung is just going to end up pulling back and pretty much opts not to go for that kind of early push out he was originally setting up for. Decides to head back to the third base, buy a little bit of time before maybe heading up along that north left-hand side. And she's going to technically spot out these 2 Banelings and might actually be able to pick off one of them with no +2 melee on the way. That means that Baneling is not going to be able to accomplish a whole lot over here. And, well, Ryung, he's getting set up for this push in. And, I mean, he has a lot of ground to cover, but I like the very, very patient way he's taking this so far.
Kind of funny to see a couple of slow Marines pick up a Hydra very casually. Now, even though the Banshee was aware of it, Lambo is still going to try, but in the end, yeah, this has been a little too long. I mentioned those upgrades a while ago, and now we start our +2 melee, plus the Carapace. +1 melee finished up like over a minute ago, so the upgrade's definitely not as hot for Lambo as it could have been. A couple of tanks on the high ground are putting in some work. Like there's one tank on the low ground, sure, that one went down. But the 2 on the high ground got a couple of very juicy shots up there. And we are getting closer and closer to Ryung being maxed out. And he's going to have a pretty sizable upgrade advantage here, Fair Dragon. Look at his 2-2 upgrades finishing up. The ones of Lambo have just been started.
Yeah, 2-2 with +1 weapons for those siege tanks is going to be pretty brutal. Ooh, Banshees! Sorry, the Baneling connecting with some of those Marines. They're heading up the ramp. This Banshee has been finding so much value with just pushing back the run-bys. It'd be great if he kept it alive. It is going to unfortunately end up dying over there, so I'm not going to be able to use that to help spot out some of those little Baneling and Ling run-bys, but he's got plenty of units still back at home, gearing up for yet another attack, because like you said, this is basically Ryung's time to shine when he has this massive upgrade advantage.
Yep, but also like Lambo is going to look at his game and be like, I'm at 97 drones, I'm at 5 bases. 97 drones obviously means that your army supply is not going to be all that big. So at this point, Lambo really needs to start finding damage. He needs to start trading. Because if Ryung just maxes out and he's going to have 125 or 130 army supply, it's just going to be harder and harder for Lambo to get good trades and find any sort of success. Having a lot of workers is awesome, but there is a downside to it, especially on a map that is as tiny and narrow as Inside and Out. I'm actually a bit worried for Lambo here, man. I know he's maxed out. I know he's got money in the bank. He's got highs. First Vipers are on the way, but I'm just worried that taking good fights is going to be close to impossible unless Ryung really messes up.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there, but at the same time, okay, well, this hatchery going down is going to be a bit annoying, but I was going to say, outside of this hatchery, it does feel like there's still a lot of creep spread in front of all of the bases, so it's going to actually be pretty, it's going to still take some time for Ryung to push forward, and I feel like that's where that worker count is really going to start paying dividends, is where you have time to make a second round of units. This double medevac drop is going to be put in a very annoying spot, though, as all of the banelings take a little bit longer to get over here. Spore Crawler gets sniped off, and the Marines just pick up to the medevac. And Ryung is just going to be sending off small squadrons of these Marines very deep onto creep, and now he's finding the damage.
Yep, 5 drones and a queen and a couple of lings, quite a few lings. Even the lings do have adrenal glands. And in the end, the banelings will keep Lambo's top left side base safe. But Ryung just went from 1 ghost up to 4. And that obviously means that dealing with these Vipers is going to be a lot more doable. There is nothing worse for a Terran than when the Zerg has 3 or 4 Vipers with a bunch of energy. You've got 0 ghosts, because all of those tanks, they can be in the best spots ever. Just one by one, they're going to get abducted. You're going to lose them one by one. As we have a couple of snipes going down, all 3 Vipers with energy. Oh no, Lambo is not going to be happy with that. That is so big. Because if Lambo thought of being aggressive, well, forget about it. Now you need to rebuild those Vipers. You need to suck out the energy again from a couple of Evo chambers or gases. And this is not Lambo's series so far. I know he's rich. He's in this game. He's got a chance. But those are mistakes you cannot make at the highest level.
Definitely going to be rough. He needs a bit of time before those extra 3 Vipers to be made to gather up the energy. I mean, he was very clearly getting ready to do a bit of aggression. And hey, stepping off a medevac over there is also a nice touch. It's not the full medevac, but still delays a little bit of that pushing power. And again, I still like that Lambo has a lot of creep spread in front of most of his bases, but even on this left-hand side, just a handful of Marines slowing down some of that creep spread, opening up the pathway to attack that left-hand side a little bit later on in the game. I still feel like I'm with you in the sense that I think Ryung has a lot of things going well for him, especially now with still this extra like minute and a half where 3-3 is going to be done for Ryung and still no 3-3 for Lambo.
Yep, I mean, Lambo needs to slow down or deny this 5th base. And I don't know if he ever can because the ghost count is high. We have a bunch of Liberators. But if Ryung is very easy and comfortably able to get this base up, I almost feel like the writing is on the wall already for this game. No matter how many minerals Lambo has in the bank, that kind of stuff is just irrelevant. You compare the strengths of the 2 armies at this point, and you've got to absolutely love the army of Ryung a whole lot more. We even have a couple of Hellions that can morph into Hellbats with Blue Flame already. So it's kind of turning into a bio-mech composition at this point with those ghosts. I mean, sure, Lambo has double Spire. One of them morphing into a Greater Spire. But by the time we have Brood Lords, it's not like we're looking at a game where the Terran is going to have like 2, 3, 4 ghosts. Like, no. Ryung is going to have so many ghosts at that point. And I'm looking around the map, right? Where is Lambo supposed to find success? Where is he supposed to find economic damage? Your guess is as good as mine, Ravi, because I really don't know. Like, I feel like Ryung is bulletproof everywhere we look.
Yeah, and I think we're also at the point now where Lambo, nice little attempts at taking out that medevac, finally gets it. But I was going to say, Lambo is basically taking every single base he's supposed to be allowed to take. So his economy is not really going to get that much better than right now. Ryung still has another base he can take, and that's on top of the fact that, like you said, there's not exactly a lot of openings here for Lambo to attack into Ryung where there's a nice opportunity to get some big damage done or anything. This is just going to be a really, really tough spot, and the name of the game here is going to be about trading cost efficiently. Yes, Lambo has a bigger bank, but Ryung is just, as long as he can weather the storm that Lambo throws at him, he is just going to be trading a little bit more cost efficiently with this kind of army composition.
And it's kind of felt that the storm never came, right? Well, it was cloudy, it looked grim and dark outside, but that storm never came in the end. And I think with the style that Lambo went for, he was absolutely looking to kill SCV after SCV, deny a couple of bases, make it so much harder for Ryung to successfully transition into goals. We have a few sport crawlers here that will get a couple of shots off. They're going to buy some time, but Ryung's army is just sick, man, and it's only going to get better and better. And at this point, Lambo is going to have to win in the ultra late game with Fungals, with Broodlords. There is a chance. Lambo is very good with the spellcasters. I know he lost the Vipers earlier, but these things happen. Normally, Lambo is quite comfortable in controlling Broodlords, Vipers, and Infestors at the same time. But at this point, I am still not feeling this game for him. I hope that he can find a couple of W's. Few goals, go on an adventurous missions, and that's -2 goals. And at the same time, 11 SCVs go down, the planetary falls. Lambo getting a couple of little W's on the board here.
Yeah, I do like that Lambo's doing a good job positioning his units. The Broodlords are all set up with alongside the Infestors on the right-hand side where they are a little bit less mobile, but that's where the main army for Ryung was. And then hitting with some of the mobile units like those Banelings and Hydras on the left-hand side. Lambo's also taking a very, very, I'll just say advanced base in the bottom right that is very clearly on Ryung's side of the map. So see when Ryung decides that he wants to send some units down to that bottom right to try and take that out. But I mean, this is also just buying a little bit of time for Lambo to get into his groove with the main army composition he wants to go for, on top of having taken off that left-hand side base. So Thor's being added in, but yeah, this is gonna be definitely a sat back game for a bit.
I almost feel like that base is bait. If Lambo sees all of the units of Ryung in the bottom right side, that means that he has a little opening here on the left side to snipe that base that he already sniped now in the first place, and maybe grab a few more SCVs. But yeah, Lambo clearly didn't think that he could actually defend that base, because he never sent any drones there. Didn't even take an extractor to steal away some gas for these split map scenarios. As Hydras and Banes are taking a very adventurous fight on the left side. In the end, a single tank goes down, but Lambo lost a lot more.
Yeah, I'd say just resources lost. It's been tilting more and more in Ryung's favor. Some Ghosts going to be able to find a couple of snipes on some of those Broodlords, but nice Fungals actually zoned back a good bit of the army. A nuke starts coming on down as the Overseers are not quite close enough to actually spot out that Ghost, and I'd actually end up seeing a handful of units or buildings over here die. Spore Crawlers and Overseer getting sniped. There we go. That's something.
And all the changelings. I was
Because,
taking a look at Lambo's vision. I always think it's kind of interesting to follow a player's point of view the moment the nuke goes down. And at first I was like, does he actually know where it is? But then towards the end, when the nuke was close to landing, he did immediately pay attention to his army and the spores, and he moved them. Few tanks getting picked off here. That's obviously quite nice for just a couple of links. Lambo's going to be more than happy with that trade. But Ryung, I was like, is he going to remake those tanks? Yes or no? The answer is yes. Oh, so he definitely did care about those tanks. Lambo is going to try to get on top of the planetary fortress once more on the left side. Pretty sweet timing. Before that is a PF. The Hellions and the Gulls will snipe the Banelings. In the end, 6 SCVs is all that Lambo can really get there.
Yeah, and I think we're at the point now where Ryung is more than happy to trade out a handful of SCVs as he's, up to 8 orbital commands. Broodlord's going to be hitting on this bottom right-hand side, which is very much so where the army is not. That nuke is going to be dodged out of the way of the Broodlords, and the Vipers all move out of the way. A command center is going to go down to the nuke. Little awkward there. The planetary fortress also, it's being repaired. It's got a lot of surface area for that repair that's blocking the Broodlords out, but Ryung is just going for broke with his big Thor army, and this is turning into a little bit of an awkward base trade now, Kev.
Yeah, but since when do Broodlords base trade? Like, I've never actually seen that. But yeah, I'm with you. That is kind of what's happening. This may give Lambo the opportunity to get that one sick fight that he's been hoping for. You land a couple of Fungals, maybe a couple of Neuroparasites, as we have a random nuke go down in the center of the map. I actually kind of like that nuke. I'm taking a look at Lambo's camera once more. He's
No.
setting up a bit of a
No.
flank. I don't think Lambo has seen that
Oh.
nuke. Now I think he did, yeah.
I mean, even that is just a little bit of a delay, though. It's an extra 5 or 6 seconds for those Broodlords to get over to the army, and that basically means that Ryung might actually have his retreat path covered. Another nuke comes down and is going to delay the army. Another base will die here. Yes, Lambo took out a bit of the mining there on the bottom right-hand side for Ryung, but Ryung just cleaned up the entire left-hand side for Lambo. This is actually a lot of the mining dead for Lambo.
Yeah, I gotta say, this really is the definition of a tactical nuke, right? He's just using them to zone away the army of Lambo. And ideally, you land the best nuke of all time. Or, well, I guess Mario already landed those, but you land one of the best nukes of all time. As one more nuke does go down here, it just makes it really hard for Lambo to get his Broodlords and his Infestors in the position where he wants them to be in. He still has a very powerful army. The mining, you're right, it's kind of in the gutter, but it's for both players. Now, of course, sometimes that's where mules shine the most, and the more workers go down, the perhaps better it is for the young, because that means even more army supply. But 1 or 2 fungals, 1 or 2 Abducts, Blinding Clouds is all it really takes for Lambo to win this game.
That's absolutely the true and absolutely the case. 12 Ghosts going to be looking for their opportunities to potentially find some snipes on these Broodlords, covered by the Thors, covered by the Hellbats. Bottom right-hand base, not going to accomplish a whole lot. The Planetary Fortress will possibly kill the Extractor in time, and some Ghosts will try and save that base. But I'd say the big base right now for Ryung is that left-hand base he's been able to secure.
I feel like that's pretty crazy to move all the Ghosts by themselves and kind of leave the Thors alone in the left side. Seems like Ryung is going to get away with it, but that is a crazy move, because this army, without those 12 Ghosts, I mean, it's going to have a very tough time dealing with 12 Infestors and 3 Vipers, I'll tell you that much. One EMP did go down there, and it actually connected with 2 out of the 3 Vipers, so not too much energy on those important Vipers. But the Ghost count at this point is not that crazy. Like, 10 is a good amount, but we're not looking at like 25 Ghosts, right? Where it snipes for days, EMPs for days. Ryung needs to be a little bit careful, because his bank isn't massive, so he can't remake those Ghosts over and over again. He does have an insane army, but he needs to be careful.
Liberator zones all getting sieged up. The Viper's looking for some potential, parasitic bomb instead of any abducts there, and is going to be able to soften up some of those Liberators at least. Snipes off one of them. Opens up the opportunity for some of the Infestors to move forward. Fungal Growth comes out on the Thors. Not the most effective spellcaster unit for damage there, but I mean, at least softens up some units. Got to keep those Infestors alive, though. Lambo is, I feel like he's starting to bleed out a lot of his creep and a lot of his units over here. He's got to be careful. Oh, God, that EMP.
I gotta say, I love Lambo with his Broodlords there. He's attacking one of his own Broodlings to get all the Broodlings on the ground, and then basically just rally them forward towards some of these mech units. And any bit of damage you do obviously adds up over time, because these units do not regenerate from those metavacs. As the Vipers go forward once more, they really have very little energy, so there isn't too much that Lambo can get done there. But this is truly what it all comes down to. Lambo's even making a second-grade Aspire there. They're in 2 completely different locations. I don't know, maybe he was worried that he would end up losing one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I guess definitely might come in handy later if we end up seeing some kind of crazy base trade yet again. A lot of the Infestors were out of energy from the EMP earlier on. Some of them are still regenerating some of that energy, but I think enough of them have some fungals and stuff available. Broodlord's also getting very, very close to this army. They might actually start being able to hit some of these Thors soon if they're not too careful, but...
Right, a lot of Krypton was going down. I saw the Infestors, they were actually getting pushed by other Infestors and a couple of the Lings and Banes. I was like, no! Those are very important, but in the end they did barely survive, so that is good news for Lambo, who still has a shot in this game. He's got 23 Broodlords against only 7 Ghosts. I mean, that is good. Of course, if the Thors get in the range, yeah, the Thors can be excellent against the Broodlords, but it's really hard for 18 Thors to get in the range of 23 Broodlords.
Yeah, and I love, like you were saying, a little bit of micro there for these Broodlings to find a bit of free damage over here. This is actually really important, because I have to say, I've been watching the banks for Lambo versus Ryung, and Lambo's bank has been gradually depleting, whereas Ryung, he's actually been getting up a lot better mining over time, and now he's actually starting to get in on top of one of Lambo's only remaining mining bases. Oh, God.
been worse. It was only 6 in the end. The Hydra then very low on HP. Lambo still pulling up some cool moves with his Broodlords, and he feels that this is the angle to bring the Broodlords in range. Gets a lot of the Broodlings shot off and gets one Thor. It's kind of what it is for now. I think that was a Thor for a Broodlord. The ghost count is one thing that I'm very worried about though for Ryung. He only has 5 left.
Oh my god, a ghost managed to sneak past a lot of the units on the left-hand side, got a final EMP off, hits a lot of the infestors. There's still some energy left over, so these infestors should still be able to zone back ghosts, but I mean, I feel like Ryung is actually making a decent amount of progress over here, where he's not losing too much of the little bank that he has, around like 1k minerals, 1k gas. But he's been keeping Lambo's bank a little bit lower, and he's gradually picking away at that hatchery.
What do you think is stopping Lambo right now from just sending it? He's just gonna
sending his units in?
Yep.
I mean, I think this is still kind of a scary army to just directly engage into, right? Like,
I agree,
like
but
said,
knowing that the Ryung has the bottom right and the left side once more, and like Lambo's obviously not mining at the top left, I kind of feel this is it at the moment. Like the ghost count is not that high, and I think it's now or never for Lambo. Because if we let this drag on for 4 or 5 more minutes, Ryung is gonna have a monstrous bank, and Lambo's gonna have to kill an army like this twice. I really think that this is go time for Lambo. You're just gonna send it. You gotta hope you land a couple of good fungals, maybe a blinding cloud, a couple of upducks. It does not get any better than this for the German Zerg. I think it's now or never, Feared right.
Yeah.
Oh, the ghost!
The
ghost! What are these ghosts doing? The only ghosts that are on the map, trailing behind, just casually running into all of these Broodlings. And Ryung is killing a base, but the Thors right now are kind of left for dead.
Yeah, now the Thors are going to be extremely vulnerable to those Viper abducts, since there's no EMP, no snipes to actually fear. There's a couple of ghosts still left over on the map, but even some of the Thors getting caught on the front lines a little bit by themselves. The Thor's not firing against the Broodlords until now. Is this actually going to be enough? I think that Lambo's actually starting to overpower him now.
Okay, we have flanking Thors. That's not something you see very often. A couple of Thors do get some decent shots off, but that was definitely a mistake from Ryung, who's now bringing all of the units to the bottom right. I think at this point you may as well just accept that Orbitor is always going to fall and try to rebuild, but I don't think there is any rebuilding. Lambo, with his insane Broodlord count, is actually still going to do it. Ryung's ghost count was already not very high. Then he lost 5 of them in the center for absolutely no reason. A couple of Liberators are going to do their best here, but the corrupted count is still quite high too. Wow. And just like that, after 28 minutes, it's Lambo and I think his 30 Broodlords, right? That got the job done. That's kind of what it must have been.
A great opportunity seized there by Lambo to find the opportunity to snipe off all of those ghosts. Like you were saying, I mean, the ghosts are so important in that composition. They are what prevent the Vipers from getting easy abducts off, from the infestors being able to dive in and get fungals to lock down a lot of those units. It means that suddenly now the Broodlords are a little bit more okay trying to take some of those trades and fighting against some of those Thors. It all just suddenly opened up over there. And I'm totally with you. I think that was a very important moment there for Lambo, because the longer the game went on, the better the mining was going to be for Ryung. He was going to be able to replenish units, and Lambo was just going to continue going through his bank. He was not going to have the economy to replenish things.
Yeah, and the army was just going to get better and better over time as well, right? Like, you can definitely fight an army with 3 goals, and that's the army he fought. But even with like 6, 7, or 8, I think there is some potential there. If it ever gets up to like 20 goals and missile turrets everywhere and sensor towers, where you make sure that as a Terran, your units are always in the perfect defensive spot, it was just going to get harder and harder for Lambo. So that was truly it. And I feel like the moment that he was ready, he's like, hey, 5 goals. Well, I was already pretty sure that this was my moment, but now I'm 100% sure. And I gotta say, I do love what he was doing with the Broodlords. He's obviously not the first Zerg to do it, but this is something that's always nice if you have a couple Broodlords. But if you have like 25 plus Broodlords, which really is what Lambo had, and you shoot all the Broodlings at something that's on the ground, you suddenly have like 50 plus Broodlings on the ground. You can rally those forward, and that's already going to push the line of the Terran back a little bit, because then the Thors and a lot of units have obviously cooldowns as well. So they all fire at Broodlings on the ground, and that allows the main army of Lambo to get a bit closer and take a good fight immediately. So really cool gameplay by getting all those Broodlings on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, the Broodling micro, I think we actually saw on Reddit someone even showcasing if you were microing perfectly, they had like an AI simulate how many Broodlings you can get out with that kind of little micro where you get out the first round of those Broodlings, attack your own Broodlings to get out even more of them and send them out. And it looks pretty ridiculous when you see an AI do it. But it is very micro intensive. So it's awesome that Lambo is able to not only manage that kind of Broodling micro, but also do so while keeping the infestors alive, making sure they're not getting EMP'd, keeping the Vipers pulled back far enough, but still close enough that they can immediately respond. I mean, it's a very, very micro-intensive army for both of these players moving to those late games. But damn, Lambo stepped up to the plate there, especially at the end of the day and seizing the opportunity. But we've had two very opposite games now, Kev. We've had a very, very late game, closing in on mining out the map kind of situation. And we had a proxy 4 racks. Like, where does game 3 take us?
Probably more aggression coming out of Ryung, because I feel like when it comes
Mm.
to trying to play the ultimate late game, at one point that game was looking about as good as any game could look. And if you could then still not close it out, it doesn't really make sense for me to once more try to play Thor, Hellbat, Ghost. Probably just a bit more aggression. And I think at one point there really was a lot of opportunity for Ryung to be a bit
Mhm.
more aggressive with just the tanks, Ghost, and the 3-3 bio. Because it was funny, the moment he hit 3-3, he basically stopped making bio altogether. He just kind of went into the Hellions and only Thors and got a bit more reckless with some of the tanks, but then still rebuilt the tanks too. I felt like that was some real opportunity to just kind of keep going with a lot of Marines, and then slowly but steady, you can always transition. But kind of just felt like he hit the switch immediately where he's like, no, I don't want that anymore. I want basically a mech army at this point with a couple of ghosts, and we'll take it from there. And economically, he definitely turned the game in his favor at one point, but never quite got close to really winning a fight against the army of Lambo.
Yeah, I think that's a super fair point. And I'm thinking back on like that last game and how the bio ended up getting used, though there was some bit of aggression there from Ryung. There's two major points, right? One was the attack where he did a move out before he had all the ghosts and everything, but he did the move out, but remember, he thought the fourth base was being taken on the low ground beneath the
Yeah.
main. So he went all the way to the right-hand side. That what actually was supposed to be a big kind of 2-2 move out timing that really didn't see any actual serious value just because Lemba took the other fourth base. So I guess that was one thing that didn't necessarily go super well for Ryung that should be pretty easy to rectify moving into the next game. But the other thing was, I guess he did do like little bits of marine move outs and stuff, but
Hmm.
it was just kind of stimming and running a handful of Marines or medevac dropping Marines behind enemy lines. So the creep spread was also constantly keeping him pretty far pinned back from doing a big move out. It would have taken a little bit longer. So I do wonder if he's gonna get more aggressive. Is he gonna try and be a little bit more active about pushing in, doing that good old Terran thing where you kind of like wedge yourself in, preventing the creep spread from spreading in like a particular area and just saying, I'm gonna nonstop hit this angle until I finally break through. And that'll be very interesting to see as next map is going to be Moondance whenever we do get that game started. I think that we
Yeah, we
had a
we have
few
actually
crashes and stuff.
no, yeah, we hopped into the lobby a while ago, and we've actually been looking at the loading screen halfway through.
Our
So I guess somebody that's in the game crashed. What is it?
Indy did, yeah. Our observer, who was kind of an important person, did end up crashing. So I think that we're waiting for everyone to crash out so that we can remake the game. So don't worry,
This
guys. It's not
this
just
always
us
gets me
loving the sound of our
nervous, man.
voice.
Like I'm not even playing, but I already get nervous. As a player, I feel like this kind of stuff is really frustrating because at one moment you kind of lean back where you're like, okay, I guess it won't start, but then sometimes the game suddenly does just start and everyone is still in it. I can definitely feel the tension. It's a really big match, of course. 1-1, upper bracket, best of three. Offline finals are on the line. Indy is indeed the one that crashed out, and I guess
Yep.
we are going to rehost it immediately.
Solid, solid. Well, guys, we were talking about this earlier as well. As we can see the brackets pulled on up. The winner of this series is going to go on to face off versus Hero Marine. So I think that you brought up a really good point here, Kev, which is the style of Ryung and stuff. If you had to compare it to some of the other Terran players out there and everything, it's not super duper far away from what I think someone like Hero Marine is capable of, especially if he's able to hit those kind of nice, fine timings and everything with how you're talking about you might see from game number 3. So I think this is going to be also an important series for Lambo to kind of set the pacing for what he's capable of, but also I'm sure Hero Marine is looking and watching this series to keep an eye out and see like what kind of form is Lambo up to in TVZ right now.
Yeah, I mean, Gabe is a real fan of the game, so I'm sure that A, he's watching, but B, Gabe also doesn't forget about series. I think the last time that Gabe went up against Lambo, he did actually win, but it's the first time in a while. Before that, it was kind of all Lambo for a decent amount of games, and it was already getting a bit closer. I recognize a certain game on Moondance, actually, where Gabe was a bit confused about why he lost it, and then he went over the replay, and he's like, man, I was totally winning that game. What was I doing? He's like, oh, yeah, just wasn't quite playing my A game towards the end, so I'm sure that he's aware of it. But yeah, it seems like we are going to rehost the game. Lambo Ryung, game 3 is now officially coming up. As you guys can see that we are far from done today. Next up, another TVZ. Some good old Maru versus Ratata. That's going to be fun too.
Yeah, that's going to be a very fun one. And I believe there's also a wonderful TLO true or false prediction for that series. It is Maru versus Ratata will conclude in less than 47 minutes. That is our last true or false prediction for the weekend as well. I think the other two
and
are
I
already
actually
settled.
at first, I thought that was like, is that for the best of 5? I was like, yeah, I can see that, like it could be a trio, could be a couple of 30-minute games. And it's a best of 3. I was like, 47 is I'd be surprised if that goes over 47 minutes, to be totally honest.
Yeah, okay, I can sort of see where maybe he was coming from with it, where he's like, Maru likes playing these super defensive games. I feel like it's usually Maru plays the defensive games if he falls behind. I don't know if I would wager that he would fall super far behind against Ratata. I feel like Maru's a little favorite coming into that.
But like even a real late game could be like 25 minutes, right? Then Maru can already have a beyond godlike army. The fact that 2 games would go past 25 minutes, now unless of course Ratata gets a cheeky one on the board, but it's gonna be fun. Anyway, we'll talk more about that one later and the Dr. Dario true or false prediction. For now, let's just enjoy the decider match between these two that are starting their journey here in TSL 9. That is of course brought to you by Shopify. Top left side, the German Zerg. I'm sure that he was pretty concerned in that previous game, but in the end he got the dub. Can he do it again? This is Lambo.
Down here in the bottom right-hand side of the map, our yellow Korean Terran player. He is Ryung, representing good old Team GP. He's going to be
First
facing
time
off
in the
against the
best.
pool first.
Yeah, first time in the best of 3 that he opens up with the Reaper, and this time around Lambo did go pool first. Lambo probably thought, all right, first game, you cheesed the ever-living hell out of me. Second game, he did the complete opposite. It didn't go well. I will not be surprised if you are just going to go back to some proxy barracks shenanigans. So Lambo decided to play it very safe. Obviously, he's not going to be very happy when he realizes it was just a very standard opening here for Ryung. Ryung might be a tiny bit concerned that it's 4 links into something else feisty, right? That we see quite often of Zerg players where they're like, oh, just 4 links, nothing to worry about. But then the Reaper stays at home because the Reaper is busy dealing with these links. And suddenly we've got 5 or 6 roaches running to the other side of the map. We know that that's not happening. But if you're Ryung right now, you cannot be 100% certain that that is not happening.
Yeah, and I will actually quickly note, while I don't think it's quite the case as much now, and as you said, it's not really going to be what Lambo is throwing out. I do remember the first couple of weeks of the ESL Open when we just moved to these new maps. I think I saw like 4 different series where every single time I went to Moondance, TVZ, Lambo was just going for that Roach All-In. I'm like, huh, is this a good map for the Roach All-In? That's so curious, but it's not going to be something that Ryung will have to worry about this game. He's going to be able to keep this Reaper alive long enough to spot out that 3rd base and should be breathing a little sigh of relief if he was at all worried about that, which well, now he doesn't at all.
And he's obviously playing quite greedy himself once more. I mean, that 3rd command center is already more than halfway done in his own main base. So economically, he's going to be strong. It's a tiny map. So just marine tank aggression, I think, could already be very, very good on this map. We did see Ryung recently play a decider match against a Zerg on this map. It was a very close series. It was like 2-2. Then in the final game, he did go for some low eco 44 SCV marine tank all in. I think it was against Elaser at Homesturicus, I guess, right? I was like, where the hell would he have played against Elaser? But I guess Elaser, Ryung, game 5, lower bracket Homesturicus. Put it all on the line here on Moondance. But in the end, that did not work out for him, as he laser just caught him off guard with a run by early on, picked up the reinforcements over and over again. So I'd be kind of surprised if Ryung does the same thing in another important series, but you never know.
Yeah. I'm actually really curious about your thoughts on... I feel like this is one of the most interesting matchups for this particular map, just because Moondance has that in-base, tucked-away third location that you can go for. It's a little bit less yield in the sense that there's 6 mineral patches and a single gas geyser as opposed to 8 mineral patches and 2 gas geysers that a normal base has. But I feel like if there's a matchup that I can think of outside of maybe like PvZ or something where you can maybe get a little value out of it, it's kind of this one, right? Where if you're worried about run buys, it feels like this is a map that kind of allows you to do some kind of interesting or slightly more aggressive builds and make something happen. As I actually say that, we have an armory plopping on down, and Kev, I don't think that's for upgrades.
No, probably not. I mean, what you can also do is play quad orbital, right? Because you can just take the third the way you always take it as a Terran player. Take it as a triangle here, and then you can have the 4th orbital command in your pocket expand, because there's no need for you to build a planetary in the bottom right side. So we'll see. It was kind of funny how he started Cloak, and I was like, Cloak would be fake, you know, and then the Viking popped out, and the Viking kills the Overlord, and you're like, okay, we're going to cancel Cloak? And Ryung was like, no, I'm not canceling Cloak at all. We're going to go for some good old Hellbats and Cloak Banshees. First Banshees out. Can the Hellbats block that Queen? They can't quite block it, but they do get a lot of shots off. And this actually has some potential, right? It's only 16 links, 7 Queens. We could land the Viking too. That's extra DPS. Queens are all over the place. Lambo could be in a bit of trouble here, Fear Dragon.
A lot of Lings getting roasted almost immediately over here on the left-hand side. Queen's doing some good chip-away damage, though. A lot of the Hellbats end up dying on that left-hand side. The drones being target fired down by these Hellbats on the right, but not that many of them actually going down. Queen's buying a lot of time. Additional Hellions coming on forward, trying to get some of that splash damage out there, but at the end of the day, I am perplexed and amazed only a single drone has gone down during all this, Kev.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I do think that Ryung made a little mistake by splitting up all of his Hellbats the way he did, because that kind of made it a doable fight for Lambo. We do have an extra Queen, Banshee showing up, and the Queens are still chasing these Hellions away, so there should be decent potential, especially because a couple of the drones can get one-shotted. Overall, I think Ryung hoped for a little more there, and I think Ryung could have absolutely done a little more. Lambo is a little flustered, as he's building 4 evolution chambers at the same time, and all 4 of them are in the natural.
Well, unfortunately, I would like to credit this to being a triple upgrade play, but I don't think it's possible to get that many upgrades from your Evo chambers. So it does end up canceling one of them, has an extra one finished up, but not the end of the world there. Still, overall, a really, really good defense there from Lambo.
Yeah, so this is a pretty bizarre build, right? Because Ryung opens up triple factory, but then he does still go into bio upgrades. Or at least, yeah, he has one. He's getting everything, like triple factory into bio. That's what it is.
Kev, my brain is breaking because it was a fast 3cc, but also a Hellbat, like, committed attack with Cloak Banshees that leads into both mech and bio. Like, he's actually doing everything.
He's just doing it all. No, that's honestly the best way to put it. He is literally doing it all. Triple factory, 5 barracks. As a couple of Lings are going to run it. I mean, imagine if you're a Lamb. And now we have a Thor on the way, and Blue Flame, and one. I mean, I don't really know. We'll just see where Ryung takes it. What I do know is that if I was Lambo and I would scout this, I wouldn't even be exactly sure what I'm scouting.
Yeah, I'm really wondering now, because Lambo has not seen the additional factors or anything. He got some Lings pretty close into the natural, but he didn't actually get them into the main base or anything. So I'm really curious what Lambo's thinking right now, and what he would even think if he did scout this. He's making 16 workers.
Yep, and he's dropping the infestation pit, so I guess we just want to rush into Hive, and Lambo probably thinks whatever you have, if I can get adrenal glands and a couple Vipers, maybe some Ultras, that's going to be pretty good against everything you have. But he's also firing up Roach upgrades. And I feel like the Roach speed gives me the idea that he maybe thinks it's slightly more mech. He sees the Hellions with Blue Flame, right? He may think it's more mech than it is bio, but yeah, we know it's both. Double Cloak Banshee, by the way, is going to rest into the natural. It'll be kind of annoying for Lambo as he only has 2 Queens there.
Yeah, well, Queens are going to be enough to push back the Banshees for now. One of them pretty softened up. Hive is going to be on the way there for Lambo as well. This is, turning into a funky situation. He now sees Thors, which if there's anything that just sells that you're up against kind of meching player, if it wasn't the massive number of Hellions, it's definitely going to be the Thors. But Overseer's going to head into the main base. Is there still a tech lab on the barracks? I mean, the Overseer's going to see the additional barracks that got plopped down and tech labs on the barracks, right? Like,
yep. And he's going to see the Marines with Stim there and combat shield. And if you're Lambo now, you're probably just like, well, at least I'm maxed out. Let's just hope I get a couple of good fights one way or the other. Drops the spine, drops the spore, fires up Overlord speed, and is getting 11 additional banelings. So the baneling count goes up to 26. His double Thor harass is just happening in the top side like it's the most normal thing. At the same time, Hellions driving into the base at 9 o'clock. There aren't too many drones to kill, but does grab 4. I mean, Ryung is just wild, man. He's all over the place. And I'm pretty sure that Lambo has, at this point, no idea where he's exactly at in this game. I'm sure he's feeling lost. He does have one overseer, seeing that there is mining right now from the base at 6 o'clock. So I guess that's Lambo's first priority. He's going to try to do something about it. But you look at these tanks. These tanks are very sexy positioned, or they have great positions over here. It's going to be hard for Lambo to get a great trade.
Yeah, Banelings are still going to be able to make their way into the mineral line, and the planting fortress absolutely goes down, but at what cost, Kev? As you said, this army gets pretty much decimated by the army of Ryung, especially with the siege tanks, and now the Stim Bio can do what Mech can't and actually chase down, stimming up on these roaches and ravagers.
Yep, Lambo did get the PF, but he paid a pretty hefty price for it. The second sim is going to hurt a little bit. The Thors are still being carried by these medevacs too. Lambo has 27 banelings morphing. He's got a lot of big upgrades finishing up. +2 melee, +2 carapace, and even Adrenal Glands is more than halfway done. But the tank count is still quite high. 5 tanks. Lambo setting up a flank. Is this good enough for Lambo? The timing is absolutely perfect. Are the numbers the right amount? It does seem like the answer is yeah. That's a lot of links. That's a lot of banelings getting on top of the tanks. And Lambo does smash the counterattack of Ryung.
Yeah, definitely well done there by Lambo. Right before those units were about to get into a pretty scary position right next to one of Lambo's bases. And now he has enough units that he can continue to sort of be threatening to this bottom left-hand base. He's going to try and rotate around over to the north side, see if he can find something over there, maybe knock out the rocks or something. But yeah, Ryung is doing a good job. Well, I was going to say he was doing a good job repositioning, but the Lings managed to squeeze their way through. The Roaches buy a little bit of time while the Lings get 17, 19 workers worth of damage. And is also actually back in the natural, like the in-base third location, and kind of denying that base. This is actually some great damage by Lambo.
Yeah, and suddenly there is a 32 worker advantage on the side of our German Zerg, who now is making a couple of ultras. Kindness plating is close to finishing up. And I think Lambo is very happy with how all of that played out in the end. He got the PF, defended the counterattack, and was then able to find some more damage himself. Needs to be careful that it doesn't throw away too much. But the moment the first ultras are out, especially if we use the Vipers correctly, there should be a lot of potential for the German Zerg. We even managed to take the top right side during all of this. Didn't even see that happen. And I don't think Ryung saw that happen either. Nope, he's got absolutely no idea.
Yeah, and I mean, now we're going to be heading into a situation where Lambo's also starting up his 3-3 upgrades before Ryung is starting up his 3-3 upgrades. And this is definitely going to get tough for Ryung, I feel like. The longer this game goes on, the rougher it's going to get unless he can find some miraculous damage with still, you know, a pretty strong bioforce. And it's a mobile force. It's definitely something that on a map like this can find hit and run kind of damage left and right. You're going to see a Zerg player get very spread out on this map. But I think the onus is kind of on Ryung to do something now.
Yeah, but like you say, it's mobile, but we don't see a lot of mobility out of it. And that's what makes me kind of sad, because Lambo's army really sucks in defending drops. The only anti-air that Lambo currently has are the 5 Queens and 1 Viper. That's just not great. So at this point, Ryung should have 1 medevac with 8 Marines on the top right side. And maybe even try to sneak a double drop into the pocket expand of Lambo. Because that's the kind of stuff you see Maru do in the late game, where it just becomes so annoying for a Zerg, you can't really ignore it. Lambo says, well mate, if you're not attacking, I'm going to be the one attacking. Once more with Ultras, Banelings, the PF does fall. Blinding Clouds from a single Viper are really good. And these Ultras feel unstoppable. Lambo was definitely in a bit of trouble in this best of 3. But it seems like he has turned all of it around and stayed calm and composed after surviving the proxy 4x in the first game. Because this once more was a lot of damage. Ryung still obviously has a lot of stuff going for himself, but He's throwing down the scans right now. It's like, do you have the top right? Yes, I do. Do you have the left side as well? Yes, I do. And these are not things you want to see as a Terran if you're hard stuck on. Yeah, what is it right now? 2.5 base at this point?
Yeah, this is a brutal spot for Ryung right now. This is Lambo's game to lose. He's going to be building up a nice little bank after flooding out all of his gas into Banelings, more Ultras, getting up a Spire. This is now going to be also his time to shine with 3-3 getting close to finishing up before Ryung's 3-3. So, I mean, I think right now the only kind of hoping saving grace here for Ryung is that he can somehow survive another kind of onslaught from Rambo Lambo and get to a maxed out point. But I mean, he's going to be asking for a lot over here. He's in a nice defensive spot, so that's the nice thing going for him. But is he actually going to be able to trade effectively enough? Doesn't look like it.
Banelings coming in from the left side as well. They could have settled for a couple SCVs, and that is what they will do in the end. 28 workers go down, and just like that.